1 second, we're not live.
Okay, well, it is 5:05. Let's go ahead and call the budget workshop session to order here. And Kelly, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yes, Tim, thank you. I think tonight we're just going to go through the worksheets. Last week we went through the state budget form, and on the 4 worksheets in the front of our packet that Susan's prepared for us has a lot of the alteration or changes that we've made, as well as the things that we have done with the budget. A lot of those changes were in red. Take, for example, on page 3, this is number 3 on page 1. It says the heading is City of Fort Scott Budget Worksheet. And number 3 there is we had to do some scheduled transfers, adding a transfer to CBB, which is actually the old tourism department or fund. That's line A. We did $30,000 there for. What we did was, the reason this is there is we removed Suzette out of economic development or Bourbon County Ready, and our stipend to them yearly transfer or funding for them, and put it back into tourism so that she and Jackson will both be in tourism that well, or CVB, what is it called, Community
Conventions, Visitors Bureau.
Convention Bureau. Yeah, we can have somebody make you a copy, Pete. All my help. Yeah, this is the one August 9th.
Here, I'll go back one.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly and Susan, would it make sense when as we're making these adjustments on the worksheet, if we highlight those changes in red as well?
Oh, you mean in the worksheets with the state budget form?
Yeah, just until it's finalized, so that we're kind of keeping a running track of what was actually changed.
Oh,
yeah, I can do that on the next one. Hopefully, we won't make very many more changes.
Right.
But
so
I can do that on the next one.
The transfer to
Hopefully not. I was just trying to think of ways that we could quickly go to
water.
those items. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go ahead. That's fine. Thank you,
so
Tim. Yeah.
3A is a transfer to CV Convention from the general fund.
Right.
But Suzette's salary is coming out of general fund now, isn't it?
No,
Oh, it's not.
it is
Well,
not.
she was when she was with the
Okay.
city.
No, she wasn't ever coming from the general fund. She was coming from a utility fund.
Yeah, okay.
And so this year we just left it alone, but for 2023, we'll need to make up for that because hers will come out of the CBB.
Okay. And that's where the 30,000.
Yes.
Yes. Line B adds a transfer to water. That goes just for
It's
any.
actually, sorry, that's a typo on my part. It's transfer from water to
Yeah.
general.
Did I say 2?
Yeah, but that's my fault. I had a typo.
It's from water. Yeah, it's 100,000 to the general for to catch any, if we have any over. Give us a budget authority in case there's any extra need for money or in the general. So it is from water, and that's to the general. Line C is a transfer from water to water reserve, 350,000, and that's like we shared last week. That is so we can do capital projects and equipment purchases as needed for the city and move forward on some of those things. Did you want to go through everything on this page, or do you want to go through just what's highlighted in red, Tim?
No, I think I'd like to defer that question to the other commissioners if they're supposed to want to go through everything. We certainly don't want to keep anyone from asking any questions.
That's a good point.
Does anybody, what do you guys think? Do you want to go through everything, or do you want to go just to those items that have changed?
Is everything else the same as it was before?
It is, yeah. These are the same things we covered last week, like the school resource officer and things of that nature. And it down there is the transfer from water, and then to the general again on the first page.
So highlighted on page number 3
Mhm.
is a transfer of 50,000 to the land bank.
Yes.
What is that? Where is that coming from?
The general.
That
But
50,000
it
coming from the
actually
general?
comes, let's see, it initially, it goes into the general, isn't it from, let's see.
It's from economic development.
Yes, from economic development to the general and from the general to the land bank. Oh, those are worksheets in them. Or I may have skipped.
There's only 2 of these.
Yeah, there's only 2 of the front pages.
I'm gonna go make colors. They had on the G articles from 7 to 19.
Oh, the backside. He didn't get the backside.
Okay.
There was a backside.
Oh. Okay. Oh, on your number side, not your page.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, yeah, and Suzette. The CVB on there is our that's our,
That's the money for Suzette.
yeah. Oh, I was going to say, but the Suzette, that's tourism, but the other abbreviation is WC, and that's workers' comp.
Okay.
We'd missed initially putting the increase for workers' comp in all of the funds, so that those increases where it says WC is also the workers' comp that we need to have in there for the increase.
Okay.
So just so you understand the acronyms.
With that transfer for the CVB, that'll come out of the general fund as well, and then go to the CVB?
So the transfer to the CVB, you had reduced your payment to Ready.
Okay.
And so it still needed to cover Suzette's salaries. And so we took, basically think of it as you're taking the payment that should have gone to Ready and moving it over to CVB.
Okay.
So it's still the same amount of dollars. It's just how you're paying her.
Okay.
Another
Since
way
that-
to look at it, you
the
could.
transient gas tax goes into the general anyway, so we're just
It doesn't. It goes into its own fund.
and then we
But
transfer that to the general and then back
You
out to
pay
CVB.
Ready out of the general fund.
Mhm.
So that's where.
Yeah, so
Um,
the Ready's getting general fund money and tourism money.
Okay.
And so the tourism money's all its own fund when it comes in and goes out. It doesn't ever go to the general fund
Right.
or nothing. So.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what's more audited by the state, I'm assuming, or
Yeah.
stricter guidelines.
I think it was just because of the arrangement that was made originally was to reduce the payment to Ready, and that makes it more confusing. But because they're sharing her, then I think that's the proper way to handle it.
And so to that end, are we giving them more money this year?
We haven't talked about it, but
I have it scheduled for next year though.
for 23.
If that's what you would so choose.
Well, and then also what we had done, Matthew, is made sure that we didn't take money away.
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and that's why we put Suzette in tourism. Now, the reason we did that was tourism is a volatile account that, depending on the economy, so that was the other importance for the transfer, the stability and our budget authority.
Susan, what do you mean by you have more budgeted for 2023 for,
So if you look at,
I'm looking at 7A, page 7A.
no, don't look at that.
Okay.
Look at page 21. And that's your economic development money.
Crap. I don't have pages on it.
You don't have that page?
Well,
Did you not?
no, I have it probably, but I just don't have page numbers.
Yeah, there's one that's
Gotta
20
wade
and
through
the
the
next one
worksheets.
doesn't.
Oh. Where's it back?
It's
Oh, there we
like
go.
6th from the back.
Oh, 6 from the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 20s labeled.
Just go all the way to the back and go like 6 pages forward. It's on the back.
Susan, you say that was page 21?
Yes. Yes.
The one that says page 17.
No, it says 21.
It does say 20.
We don't have one that says
There
page
we go.
21.
You should.
Do you?
It's
Yeah.
right after 20.
It's after 20, but it's like 10
20
pages after 20.
and then 21.
Oh, no, it's on the back side.
Oh, it's probably because you have those pages in
Yeah,
between that
yeah.
give you the detail. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 5 pages from the back. It's on the back side of it.
Hold on, there's some loose papers over here. Yes, I found it. Sorry. Yep. All right.
All right.
Okay, so you have 156 in contractual.
Yeah. So we had the previous meeting in the 2022 column. We have budget authority of $150,000 for contractual services. But as far as I know, we don't have anything planned for that. So what I did is I decreased that to 50,000 and moved the 100 over to 23, so that you'd have 156,000 to work with.
To work with.
Yeah, then that doesn't mean, it just gives you the budget authority to make some bigger allocations to them if you'd like.
And 2022 was, how much was it? I can't remember. 5,600 a month, was that right? Two ready.
Right at.
Yes. Yeah.
So 65,000 or
Yeah.
whatever. Or no.
5,500.
And I had more than that budgeted in
65.
the general fund.
45.
So
Okay.
So one of the things I guess during the meeting we'll talk about is how much of that money. So in the regular general fund, you have 56,000 going in economic development. Is that right?
I have more than that, honestly.
Yeah, it said 56,000 for 2023.
For 23, yes. But for 21, it was a little bit higher than that. It was the 86, if I remember correctly.
So that 56,000 that's in there, is that what we're assuming going to ready?
Yes. And Suzette. So look at it as you have that $30,000 too, for a shared service. So it evens up to be about $80-some thousand in services.
So it's about 20. So even off that, it's about 20,000 more than this year. Because this year we gave 65 total, and next year you have 56 plus Suzette's salary, so it's about another 20,000.
I had always budgeted 87, so it gave you an opportunity for other things that came up that might be economic development related. And I don't remember what those conversations surrounded. I just left it like it was. So.
I guess that's back on number 28. Moved 100,000 budget authority for 2023 for contractual service for increased donation to Ready.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So by the next meeting or hearing or something, you'll need to know a number if we increase the budget for Ready.
Not necessarily. This just gives you the authority. You have till December, if you wanted to wait and determine what you want to do for Ready for next year. So, I mean, it's just giving you that authority to spend if you need to. It would probably help them to know what they're getting for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know going through budget with them in the next month or two. So.
Yeah.
And then you can report to us on what you feel their needs are, I guess.
Can do that.
Okay. That'd be great. That's, hearing date is wrong, September 14th.
Oh, we've changed it? Oh, I didn't know that.
It's Wednesday, September 14th. I actually gave Diana the hearing notice. Yeah,
At 5?
at 5 p.m., yes.
Okay, well, the notice that will have to be published is the budget summary page. That's what has to be published. So,
I just gave her the one to put in the, yeah.
okay, in the agenda?
We actually have a budget, they pick it up. But I have a notice of hearing that I just gave her for the agenda
Okay, perfect.
for the 14th.
All right, I'll get that changed on here then.
So I'm going to the page number 7 where we've got all this stuff listed out. So these are our current budgets and the proposed for 2023. So one of my questions is going to be on animal control. We have $1,500.
The 7 is actually the fund page.
That's the fund page.
So on the
Okay.
back side would be the expenses, all right?
Yeah, that's your revenue.
Right, that's your revenue code.
Okay.
So we're only gonna make projection 1,500 revenue.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I see. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be pretty thin. Bill can have drawn it out.
Okay, I had a question about communications. It looked like that was, drawback down, was that coded wrong? Or-
Yes, when I was going back through salaries, I went back there and double checked a lot of the figures that were given to me, and that was one that I found. There was one person that was coded wrong. It was fire personnel. So I fixed that.
So it's communications, dispatch, and all that?
Yeah, correct.
And the golf course for a 30% increase,
Okay, yeah.
or not quite 30,
Where does it go up in
from 376 to 463.
on wages?
Well, let's see back here, where,
Josh, what page are you on?
7A.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so it looks like,
Part of that will be work comp. They're a little bit higher risk.
so
out there.
salaries are going from 200,000 to 290,000.
So we absorbed some of Doug Gunn's salary in there.
Which was coming out of,
It was some water, and we said we could move some of that back over there, but I didn't do that because we could handle it here. Just trying to look at both things. Last year we didn't have some part-time wages in there, and so we increased it for that. Trying to think of what else. Work comp.
was he in parks last year?
Yes, he was in parks.
And so my question on parks, from salary 147 this year to 173, so I was wondering how much he was in parks. If we're taking out of parks, but it's still going up 15%, 20%?
I'd have to pull the detail to give you that, and I don't have that in front of me. I don't think were we fully staffed last year in parks?
Well,
No, we didn't run full staff. We actually shaved part-timers off.
but we projected to be full staff in 2021, so I went back and looked at our projected for 2022,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
and it was the same as what we're at now. So I'm assuming we always project full staff, don't we?
I try to.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of this was given to me, so I was just going through and double checking numbers to make sure.
Yeah.
So
And it looks like year to date, it looks like we're good on payroll in most areas. Golf course is over because they're coding it all in full time and not part time, if I remember right.
yes, that is correct.
So it looks like
And the other thing you got to remember, Josh, in every department we had to increase electric and gas.
yeah, I went through all the electric and gas, and on half the departments we budgeted for this year, some like golf, Buck Run, and maybe it's coded wrong.
I know why the golf course is up. A good portion of it is because of it's costing more for chemicals, and his fertilizer. Everything is up significantly. If you look at that line item,
I did on 2022, and it's all within but what we budgeted for 2022.
no, it's not. It's up.
From year to June 30th, it was all, so 6 months, it was all right. Nothing. I looked through to see if anything was over. We were overpaying, and everything was right in line with what we budgeted 2022.
Oh, you
But-
mean on the
You were not looking at
monthly
the
fuel?
ones that were not budgeted. Do you have them?
I don't have them with me.
Yeah.
I went
There
through.
are some line items that didn't have a budget.
Well,
and-
surely no big line items.
Yeah,
didn't
they
have a
were.
budget.
It was the fertilizers and chemicals and things like that. And he had gone, so it was almost $20,000 over, if I remember correctly. And so we built that in this year. And I would assume the course is looking pretty good. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It was just a lot more than what we had anticipated for this
So
year.
that wouldn't show up in the this report, the budget report.
Mhm. If I can see that, I'll show you where it's at.
This is the one.
Okey-dokey.
I do recall when Doug was in that one of the major expenses he had talked about was the price increase on the chemicals and the fertilizer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's why I wondered because it's summer and so.
You got 1,600. I have to go 4 to 11. That's where a lot of it was coming from. Is these extra line items right here: fertilizer, sand, chemicals. If we pull July, then you'll see.
Okay, because I knew there. I mean, we were a little bit over, but not a lot.
Yeah, and Josh, in miscellaneous commodities at the end of July, we're $14,000 over, $14,885 over budget.
Yeah, and at the end of June, we were, we only budgeted $2,500 all year for it.
Oh, we
Yeah.
budgeted 10 for.
Part of that is because they're probably not coding accordingly as they should.
Yeah.
They're just lumping it all into one when they should probably be breaking it down, determining what it is. But that would be, some oversight of when things come in, you have to say, hey, this really needs to go in this line item. But, when you guys get these report, and Devin, this is probably something you need to do, is be sure when you break it down by department, you are giving department totals. So you can see the bottom line and see if they're over that way, because it's really the bottom line that determines.
Right.
If
And I
they're
think he
over budget
does on
or
the
not.
quarterly.
Yeah.
So this
You
is.
definitely want to see it by department, not all lumped in as general fund.
Yeah, we've blowed out in a lot of places in the golf course.
Yeah, it's just hard in the general fund because the bottom line.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that because a lot of times there's your reserves are there. A huge reserve is there.
And I know we talked before last year about the decline in rate structure. So I didn't know if you still thought it was a good idea to get them back closer.
I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little each time, and personally, I'd like to see the next two tiers up raise at least 6% instead of the 3%, and then over the next 5 years, maybe get them where they're all in the equal per 750 gallon.
Just keep in mind that your biggest user is your rural water.
Right, but that's a negotiated contract, so I'm assuming if
Yeah.
that becomes an issue, we can sit down and talk with them again.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something, Josh.
I do still think that, Devin, something that you might do is continue those audits on those users that are out of city limits. Because there were several that we identified that should be paying time and a half and they're not. They're in the county and getting city services. So those are some things that you really ought to probably look at. There's a few that we have agreements on, like, oh gosh, I can't remember one of them. Timber Hills is the one that doesn't have to pay time and a half. But they do have to pay sewer charges, and I think there's been some new development out there, and so they should be, if they're on the lift station, then they should be paying the sewer service. And the only way to know that is if you contact the courthouse and ask if there's been any exchange in homes in that area. That's the only way that you would know to look at that.
Another thing, and it wouldn't be a whole lot, but I've heard them talk up here about charging a credit card fee, and not just on water, but on everything. Like at the golf course, alcohol's super cheap. I mean, we barely make anything on those products out there, and so when people use cards, it just takes away another couple %.
I've brought that up several times, and you can charge that fee back to the customer. And in the past, it's been voted down, but I think it's definitely something that needs to be brought to the table again, because our credit card fees are expensive. We pay a lot of credit card fees.
Who do we pay to process our credit card fees? And that's not something we could do in-house or
No,
locally?
you have to have a merchant provider.
You have to have one.
Yeah.
Which you can still shop. I mean, I don't know how long we've had this one.
Yeah, you can shop around. Yeah. The county actually is connected with the state, and so everything they do runs through the state. It's different for us. We have to do it on our own.
We did switch, didn't we, with the golf course and the pool?
We're not on Elevon anymore.
The golf course before Square.
Okay.
And then we're trying to get the utility court with Tyler, which is where we use their software.
Okay.
Because Square was quite a bit cheaper, wasn't it?
And so then they take on all the responsibilities of
Like PCI compliance and
PCI
all
compliance. That's our biggest thing is right now PCI compliance. We're having to maintain that internally, and it's a pain. So it's better to go with a third party.
It's not very much third party.
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
Yeah.
Whoever said that the beverages at the golf course are too cheap, I kind of agree with that. I was out there Sunday, and I mean, 2 beers for $4, you're hardly breaking even on that.
And if you buy a 6-pack, they cut you even bigger brief. So.
Yeah, I mean, even if you bumped it up to 2 for $5, I mean, you just picked up that much more in profit. Because we bought them off of the beer cart, so then you've got gas and wages involved in that 2 for $4 too.
Yeah.
So those are all things that the commission can set policy on, your products and fees and things like that.
In fact,
Hey,
go ahead.
Susan, can I ask one more question? The figure that's on the Grand Memorial Hall fund down there, that was for moving money from the levy into that fund to start making some repairs in there, correct?
Yes. So we used to levy in the debt service fund to cover some old street debt, and that debt rolled off. And so we had about $50,000 left over in that fund, and so we're moving that back to the general fund, and then also moving that 2 mil levy to the general fund. So your general fund levy is going to increase by 2 mils, but then your debt service levy is going to drop off. So it's basically a wash, but it allows you to be able to do those repairs.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are we currently set up to take credit card payments for the water, sewer, and all that online, or is that something they have to come in to do?
It's
Yes,
online.
it's online.
It's online.
Are we up anywhere this year in funds, franchise, delinquent taxes, or anything that you know?
Well, we are on the golf course and the things that we did affect.
Franchise was up a little bit this year.
Yep.
But man, I see that fluctuate so much. I would hate to overshoot on franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
I just meant if there was a cumulative. The only thing paid off this year was the trolley. Is that it?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that paid off. Well, let me look at my debt service real quick. So you had the trolley payoff, which is about it used to be about a $14,000 payment. So that rolled off.
An SRF rolled off that 80,000.
And I know Matthew was concerned about water. There's a big water one rolling off next year. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's going to be consumed next year also by the temp note refinancing.
Yes.
So the 80,000 that we made this year and the 129 we make next year will all be consumed by the river intake project.
Okay, because I was, maybe I don't recall right, but I thought that's one reason why you wanted the meter charge fee was for that temp intake financing.
Well, the meter charge fee is so we can do projects because we don't have any of that extra money. And Bill Lemke is going to come in after we get done with our budget hearings and help you start understanding that we can actually drop our need and a lot in our water fund because we're bleeding water in leaks, personnel, and repairs. In a previous city I was at, I did an average that every leak that you suffer costs you about $7,000. So however many of those you have a year, whether they're known or unknown, they're costing you about $7,000. So it really adds up. And so if we can get some of those 2-inch lines replaced with plastic and stop a lot of that water bleeding and get our crew where they're not, the leaks are running ahead of them and we're actually more proactive than reactive, we're going to see some actually revenue changes that way.
In 2025 is where you're going to see some real relief in the water fund. You've got a big debt service rolling off there. It's like $435,000 in principal.
But remember, you're also going to have new money needs all the way up till then. So unless by some stroke of a miracle, inflation goes away. Just kidding. I'm sorry. I thought it was funny.
When we do bulk sales on our water out of the water department, are we giving people a discount for them? If they buy more water, they get a lower rate?
They shouldn't be.
So everyone who gets any water out of the water department pays the same rate, regardless of how much they get?
No. You have a declining rate structure, so depending on the amount of water you get. So when you talk about bulk sales, are you talking about like rural water? They get a discount. They get an 8.5%.
They're the only one under negotiate. Here's it is from last year, like 0 to 1,500 gallons is $13.17, and then for every 750 gallons after that, up to 36,000, it's $6.33, and then every 750 gallons after that, I can't remember what it went up to after that. It's $5.67, and then after that, the next one's $4.07, and so. We've talked last year a lot about that 407, that 567, bumping them up a little bit more. And I think there's only like 4. It was rural water, maybe the school districts, maybe Timken, and then maybe one other. Yeah. On the high end. But I would like to see that $4 because that might not even be enough to actual break even. I don't know. But I'd like to see that brought up more towards what the regular.
I think what it'll do is it'll spark a conversation with rural water. To come in and ask for more discount. Yeah. But that's something that you guys can work through with them. But yeah, they get an 8.5% discount. And that's for our use of Cedar Creek. It's kind of a swap. If we need to pull water from there, we can. That was the arrangement years ago.
I wonder how many times we've ever pulled water from there.
When we do, we have all kinds of water quality issues. So we try not to pull from there if we don't have to.
I'm just trying to find money for the water department.
Yeah,
And
I know.
that's just something that I had seen.
Without raising rates. Yeah,
Right.
I understand.
So if we can readjust that declining rate
Mm-hmm.
where we're getting more money for the water we're selling, then that money we can put back into fixing lines as well.
Yeah.
So,
So there's a happy medium too, for economic development purposes. You know, I think they've used that as an economic development tool, the declining rate structure, because a lot of your high end users are in your industrial park. And so, you know, where is that fine line? I think it should probably be discussions with those areas, really go sit down and talk to them and help understand how that would affect them.
Because Timken probably uses a lot. don't
Yeah, they do. They're on our list of people that we watch. That we've got probably about 5 or 6 on a list that is watched monthly to make sure meters aren't dead and things like that, so that we can, you know, ensure that the meters are reading correctly, because they are our high-end users. Because
is Timken on rural water or are they on city water?
they're in city. Most of the industrial park is city. There are some places where it's not. So,
Right.
but most of it is.
Okay.
One of our finance staff made a good comment this week. She said it was interesting when a new house went in, they paid almost $2,000 for a meter, a setter, a box, and everything. And she says, we change out a meter and get nothing for it.
And rural water starts, you have to pay for their meters now.
Yeah.
So, 'cause I just found it out.
Yeah.
So, and that's something they
And
just started, I guess.
We've talked, I think we've talked about that too, about just charging everybody now who's getting a new meter. But then I've had a lot of citizens say that that's not fair.
People just
That
got
the
new.
people who just had new water meters put in, they didn't have to pay anything, but everyone who has one put in now has to. So that's where I felt it was more beneficial to establish straight across the board meter rate increase that everyone paid.
Yeah.
So that everyone.
Because eventually we want to change them all out anyway.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
So, yeah. But, and they do wear out after a while, even the new ones.
Bless you.
So what's Fund 430? You remember top of your head?
General fund 100 430.
Yeah.
Um,
That is Buck Run, yeah.
So we budgeted at the beginning of the year, original budget $30,000 for electricity, and we've used 4,500.
No, because it's just saw an $8,000 bill this week. No. It's
4,500.
Your
That'd
June
be
bill
awful
would have
low.
been your like May, or your June financials would have been like May's
I would have had
expenses.
June's bill in there.
So you probably haven't seen the hot weather hit.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, I do see what you're seeing though. I pulled a old financial that I had. Looks, I was projecting about $10,000 that's going to be there. I mean, are you wanting to cut general fund? Is that what you're trying to do? Is cut expenses out of general fund?
No, I mean, I was just going over, and I know June's hard, but I mean, my ultimate goal is still not to meter fee and still to stay revenue neutral, because I was going through everything, and there's still a lot of. I know you keep saying chemicals are up and everything, but even looking at the pool through the year, we've still stayed within our 2022 budget. So I don't see him going up again any more than he did in 2022.
No, I don't either.
And
But
so,
here's my thing. You're not even at the cash reserves that you need to be for a 3-month reserve.
right.
So that's a concern. And so usually we've been able to make up for that for those departments that don't spend all their budget. You end up, if you look at your reserve, your carryover from last year, it almost met that. Yeah, it was 1.3. So we were right at that 3-month mark. And so it gives you the budget authority to spend if you have a major operational, let's say we had a pump go out at the pool, right? But we didn't. And so therefore we'll have a better cash carryover going into the new year. Now, if you want to take that risk and go ahead and reduce it now, I just don't know where you would come up with that revenue if you did have, or the revenue for that expense, without having to cut people.
The other thing, we keep transferring money out of water, and it's a depleting resource. And we can show that track record year after year. So, I mean.
But we haven't done that for the last 2 years now. You had requested that we do it this year, and I don't think you'll need it, but it's there.
Correct. But the budget in water's going up as well, and it's still consuming a lot of the income and revenue as we put in meters, and we haven't really done any major projects at all through water except for the river intake.
Oh, I know, but we have some ARPA money. I mean, we have some
Yeah.
we use. I know water lines need done, but I mean, citizens can't keep affording. I mean, you can ask a person in town that didn't go from a $30 water bill to a $90 water bill, and $60 for someone on $700 a month. 10% of their SSI is now just paying water, not including their taxes going up. So there's a lot of single people retired, and if your water bill goes up 300% in the last 10 years,
What's our base water bill rate? Like
$9 and something 1,000.
1374 for 1,500 is how we.
Yeah, it's
1314,
$9 and something.
And then
1,000.
494 for stormwater, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
probably one of the
18.
cheapest I've seen in the state.
And then you have your
is
sewer $10 fees. So there's
9
28,
7,000.
and then average sewer is 20 to 30. So I'd say base is 50 to 60 now, when 10 years ago it was 25. So I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but for someone making $700 that a month is all they get on retirement, that's a lot of money. And I would say we are one of the heaviest poverty counties there are, with senior citizens, and so $700 a month. I know they said it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's probably a lot of our population.
I would agree with that statement. We did we did a different way of approaching things. We pulled the assessed valuations to see like our home values, and I'm almost positive it was in the city of Fort Scott, and close to 50% of our homes,
53.
this is going to shock you, are under $50,000.
Okay.
So it is, we are definitely on fixed income in a lot of these homes. We know that. So how do we make it work within our means, right?
Right.
And we're only 60,000 off from being revenue neutral, I think, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I know the water rate, so I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the only reason it was such a big raise this year was because they haven't raised it properly for years before.
No, that's
well,
not
they
true.
raised
That's
it.
not
So
true.
They've raised it 3% every
Yeah.
year for several years.
now
Then how will we-
about 7-8 years ago, they didn't raise it for a couple years, and they did
Yeah.
a 30%.
Yeah, we did huge increases.
Because they didn't. So that's the reason last year we asked just for a standard 3%, and that
Every
would
year.
stay. And I know inflation was higher this year, but there's been a lot of years it outpaced inflation.
The cost of things are just more.
But when we say that as a government, we have to realize every household's saying that same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, things cost more. I know we want to fix stuff, but I talked to someone today. They said, you know, my kid's older. I'm probably just going to move over to Missouri, you know, and we have a declining population. So at some point, we got to look at why our population is declining. So,
They're moving 300 feet outside the city.
yeah, I mean, and it sucks for us. We have to compete with such a close state line, but we have to. So,
Mhm.
I don't know.
But if we continue to leak water out of those lines, we're losing more money.
So don't confuse your levy with your utility rates. So if you want to talk about levy, we can talk about levy. You could reduce your cash carryover because traditionally we've had a better cash carryover than anticipated as long as the budget is watched closely.
Yeah.
So if you are, as a group, you feel like you want to stay revenue neutral, then drop your cash reserves by that amount and get at your revenue neutral rate.
What's our projected cash?
It's like 1,065,000. I don't have that right in front of me.
1,165,000.
Yeah.
Which is about 150,000 less than last year.
Yeah. So if everybody just buys what they need, not wants, needs, then I think you can make it.
And how much is in the economic fund?
You'll have 100 and almost 200,000 next year, but 50 of that you were going to switch over to land bank.
So if we
yeah.
put like
You could put 50,000 of that over to the general
general
fund
fund for the cash carryover.
Mhm.
I mean, I would
to
like
reduce
to see.
your levy.
I think Bourbon County Ready. I don't know exact budget, but I think if we gave them 56 last year plus that, I mean, I think if we upped it to 90, I think that would help us. That put us about on par with the county. And then we've talked, and the county's talked that 2023 is going to be a basically put up or shut up year for them. And so I just want to make sure they have every resource available to succeed. So personally, I'd like to give them another 35,000 out of that fund and then carry some over for the cash carryover.
Okay, so what that would mean is I would probably just schedule in the economic development fund an $80,000 transfer to the general fund from the economic development fund, and then increase your payment to Ready, and also increase your cash carryover, or actually we wouldn't increase the cash carryover, we would reduce the levy. Is what we would do. Is everybody comfortable with that? To kind of, you can't vote on it, but
Yeah.
In trade, can I get some money to fix the water pipes?
totally different money. So let's
Yeah.
let's stay on task. Levy. Let's talk levy first.
The only problem you're going to have with that, Josh, is you're not raising taxes. You're just staying even. But if you back off, then you are going to lose money.
Well, we're
Because
taking in
you're-
new.
you're
We're taking
actually-
in new tax money.
Yeah, you're taking in valuations. All you're taking in.
So I mean, that is new taxes. That's new tax money that wasn't there before. So new valuations is new taxes, right?
No, that's just new value.
But I mean, if the values have went up, so Joe Blow has a $100,000 house and I have a $105,000 house, his taxes went up based off his valuation.
Well, that and closing the gap, like Justin calls it,
Yeah.
on those that are not paying.
You know, I get what you're saying, but for so long we have outpaced inflation, and I know we're the ones taking the brunt for it. So, but I mean,
Well, my thing is the money's going to come from somewhere if you don't get it. If you cut the mill and you can't make it up, you're going to have to make it up out of the water fund again. And see, that's what we're typically doing now.
or just a little tighter budget. I mean, there's two ways of making money: charge more or spend less.
When equipment goes down, you still have to replace it. And this is the thing we're running into this year is we only replace what we need to keep running. I mean, we haven't done anything, and we're right dead on the money in the budget.
But I keep picking on the golf course, and I've been a big advocate for the golf course. But when they've added 2 new people this year, and one's getting built out of the lake, it kind of upsets me. They want a new lawnmower. We figured out there was one just sitting around. There's more people at the golf course than there are on the streets right now. And so, and then there's some of them were seasonal, work full year. So there's at least 40,000 out of the golf course we can probably cut.
Yeah, but see, you also got the grooming at La Roche
I'm off this, already factoring that in, what you have for Roach. I'm just saying, I bet there's at least 40,000 you can cut from the payroll from the golf course. And that's 100,000 increase from last year. That's still a 60,000.
we did not use all of our part-time help either this year.
I really think that's just way over budgeted, personally.
Well,
Hey, Kelly,
yeah.
can we, I know that at the aquatic center, the golf course, the water plant, we continue to hear, rising increase in chemicals. Can we maybe for the next workshop session at least get, a couple of examples of what those increases are and what it is they're buying? Because I've heard chemicals called out, three or four separate entities within the city. I'd be curious to see what those increases are. And, has usage gone up? Or that seems to be a popular item for some of the budgeted increases we have by city departments.
Okay, what I can do, Tim, now we're kind of under a time element anymore to get published and stay on our schedule, is get with Doug Gunn and get that out before the end of the week or by the end of the week to you guys so you can review that, some of our golf course expenses there, and those increases.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm in agreement with Matthew on concerns over the water fund as well. I think it's important that we don't end up pulling from out of there again. But the reserves are important as well. And I remember past history. I don't know when or what group, but I do think some of these issues that we're having with water and streets were items that, or especially on the water, that were maybe kicked down the road for several years in the past and weren't addressed, and the increases weren't put there that should have been put there then. But, at one point we may have to make a tough decision that, do we want a good, reliable water system, or do we want to not raise taxes or fees on folks?
Yeah, the problem we're going to get with, since you're on that, is at what point in time can we not stay up with the leaks?
Right.
Yeah.
This is what we're facing, because those lines are so old under the ground. If they're not even really just staying up now and it's still running ahead of them, there's going to be a point where we're not going to be able to. So I don't want us to get to where we have to shut down city blocks at a time because the 2-inch water lines are leaking so bad. And that's what it's going to go towards. I guarantee you.
I know, but I also don't want to see a 3% decline in population over the next 10 years.
Nobody does. But the point is, you can't be flooding the streets with city water and still maintain your water system.
I understand.
When I was out there talking to people, when we all ran for this position, one of the number one things that everybody talks about is infrastructure. And we're not fixing our infrastructure if we're not sowing the money back
in. Because mine were taxes and water bills.
I understand.
But so Tim, real quick, part-time salaries at June 30th at the Aquatic Center, we still had 68% of our budget left in part-time salaries at the Aquatic Center, June 30th. We had 80% of our electric bill left, 90% of our telephone.
You can reduce that budget, but I'm telling you that if you have a pump go out,
Right.
you're not going to have the money to replace it.
Right. I don't know what, so chemicals, we had it was an $8,000 budget and we spent $7,800. So, I imagine $3,000 or $4,000 over.
Oh, yeah.
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 So. I know on the water bill, but we just added a $10 infrastructure fee on last year and raised it. I don't know if you can pull a report on the water bills for the people in tier 2, 3, and 4, and so we can see what 6% increase would be compared to a 3% increase.
Do you want me spending my time that way, or
No.
would you rather Devin do that? Thank you.
By the end of July on the Aquatic Center, we had overspent the chemicals by $4,700.
Yeah. What was
so the difference between June and July is huge in the Aquatic Center.
What was the salaries at the end of July?
At the end of July,
And you may
14.
end up paying some overtime during that because people start dropping off, and so kids are working longer than.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they did shut down a few days
they
too.
did.
So
Were their full-time salaries? I got part-time at 36%, but
there's no. I don't think there's. For some reason, they didn't show any full-time salaries in the aquatic center.
okay.
It's all part time. It's all part time, and
Okay.
Like Chastity's,
See, we
her
haven't
wages
got,
are paid
we haven't
out
gotten
over like
August in,
a
but
longer period of time.
we were at
so
36%.
you don't always, you don't see the full impact.
Most all of it, we
5
were
months, maybe?
at 30% or
Yeah.
below, or we blowed out the line in 21% over, 16% over. Your chemical was, like I said, is
Is the report showing?
58% over.
Is the report showing like that fund, the total, like Susan said, not just chemicals?
No, they didn't run them that way.
No, this just says chemicals on it.
So we just have to go
But-
through.
but
and
Dave
I guess we
did-
can transfer to Excel pretty easy.
Yeah, Dave said
There's,
that
you can, when you pull the report, you can tell it how to total, and
Okay.
it'll total by
So-
department and by segment. So segment
each
would be
segment
like,
of general fund.
yeah, segment would be like commodities, contractual, personnel.
Well, and I would love to see just the aquatic center, like where we at year to date, police department, where we're at year to date, total salaries,
Mhm.
everything.
Are you calling 911?
Yeah. Yeah, we need backup up here at City Hall. We haven't had it before. Tim, we've had a little bit of a situation up here at City Hall. We've had the
I hear that.
police department dispatched. So
Okay.
I think we're
Is
going to.
everybody safe?
Yeah, I believe so. We're going to probably just go ahead and conclude the meeting and get the stuff out to the commissioners that they've requested and things of that nature. So.
Okay. Well, I'll stand by just in case. I mean, I see
Okay. Well,
everybody left the room.
I'm going to shut us down on YouTube.
You're going to shut us down?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you decide to start back up for any reason, just